Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Your Favorite Game. I'm Eric Schweitzer here for The Gamer, joined by the two bestest co-hosts there ever was. He's resisting the urge to pick Kingdom Hearts for another week in a row, George Foster.
Hello, that is true. It's on my list.
And she thinks the 2 stands for two protagonists in Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Hello.
Oh, we really are keeping
Stacey
this going.
Henley.
Okay.
So here's the thing: I did the joke 3 times now, which is comedy law.
Yes.
But now it's like, is he gonna keep doing it? You know,
it's like in Family Guy when it goes
now.
on, and it's like, okay, it's not funny anymore. Peter's hurt his knee, and then Peter's still hurt his knee, and then it becomes funny again.
Yeah, next week it won't be funny, but a year from now when I'm still doing it, it will be hilarious. People will be mad if I don't do it.
And Beyond Good and Evil 2 will be out by then, right?
Of course. We're talking about games with dual protagonists today. Originally, we had discussed doing... I'm going to sneeze. Shoot! Maybe not. We're talking about games with dual protagonists today. Originally, we had discussed games with multiple protagonists until I sort of realized that's a lot of games, maybe possibly even most games. You can kind of just be like any RPG, right? Any beat 'em up, any fighting game. There's just like entire genres that just have multiple protagonists.
Don't have protagonists and therefore have multiple protagonists by virtue of everyone can be the main character.
Yeah,
but then I felt like in this case,
when you limit it to just 2, there is like sort of a thematic connection that ties all these games together, even if they're like very different stories, very different genres, very different kinds of games. Like splitting a story between 2 people is a really specific storytelling choice, I find.
mine's going to be controversial. I think you're going to tell me off.
You're saying that because if like it's not actually right. That's what you're saying when you say things like that.
Did you pick a game that has 2 protagonists?
On a technicality, yes.
Oh
we'll
my
get
God,
to it. We'll get
George.
to it.
This one is so easy to do, dude.
No, you'll see. You'll see what I mean.
I'm terrified now. Do you do this on purpose?
No, it just hit me now. I was like, well, I don't count it as having more than 2, but some might.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, I think. That's what I've decided just now.
I do not.
That's a bad choice.
Stacy's more worried than I am. I had a hard time narrowing it down just because I actually really had so many I liked. And maybe I just like games that switch perspectives. But there's... games are long, first of all. Games take a long time to play, and the older I get, it seems like the longer they are. And there's just sort of a reset. There's like an inherent variety baked into having multiple protagonists, even if the gameplay doesn't really change. It just feels like I'm playing something different, or I don't know. It gives me it breaks things up a lot. That's what I find.
Variety.
Yeah, it's like a built-in refresh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I liked a lot of these games. Before we jump in, do you guys have any initial thoughts on games with dual protagonists?
None besides fear. Besides fear of my choice.
Well, we're going to have to start with George, aren't we?
Okay.
You've really set an awkward stage here at the start of the show.
I always do. That's my specialty.
George, what's your favorite game with dual protagonists?
My favorite game with dual protagonists is Devil May Cry 5 because I don't count
There's
V.
3 characters in that
don't
game.
count V. I don't count
How?
V. He is so short-lived. He has like 2 levels. He is not a protagonist. He's like a side character.
There's
Dante
no way
and Nero are the
definitely a
protagonists.
technicality.
Yeah, it's definitely a technicality, but I could choose Devil May Cry 4.
What's
but I'd be
insane
lying
is
my
you could
ass
choose
off.
Devil May Cry 4.
Well, this was actually leading to my point. So Devil May Cry 4 did have dual protagonists, properly no technicality, but it did it so badly. So obviously, Nero and Dante, they have completely different gameplay styles, but you just had Dante running through Nero's levels in reverse. That's how they decided to do that. Like, it was totally... I did not.
I thought
I
it was
get
cool.
no. Why?
Because you go through the whole game as one character, and then you go through the whole game again backwards as the other character, and it shows the difference between the characters.
I think if Devil May Cry 4 had good levels, I would be in agreement. Like it's like, wow, I really like this weird seaside area. That's great. But like Devil May Cry 4's worst aspect is that like its levels suck. You have to do that stupid dice rolling mini game
It's very
2 times in a row.
surreal. Yeah, it's very weird fiction.
Mm,
It is different than the other games. It's not quite as gothic.
yeah,
A lot more like fantasy stuff.
but
Anyway,
it's
tell us about
yeah.
your
So
favorite game, which has 3 characters, but is it a game with dual protagonists?
I mean, I guess technically it now has Virgil as well. But in my heart and my mind, and you can't tell me I'm wrong because I won't hear it. Devil May Cry 5 made up for what Devil May Cry 4 did wrong by actually giving them completely separate like campaigns. They're so different from one another. They're doing
They
completely
are.
different levels. They even have like Dante and Nero. Obviously, they play similarly because it's an action game, and that's kind of just how it goes. But Dante has like a bigger range of weapons, and then Nero has like the arms that he uses. So they
He
actually
gets more
do feel like distinct
platformy stuff.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like there's so much more. I mean, I prefer Nero personally. I know that's probably more controversial than saying that Devil May Cry 5's dual protagonist, but
Well, it's
then I guess I'll go on
saying
stage.
Devil May Cry 5 as dual protagonist is not controversial. It's wrong. Just to be
Yeah, it's
clear,
just wrong.
you're
Because
not
the
being
thing is, like,
controversial when you say that. It's incorrect.
there are
I don't count
fewer
V.
Virgil levels, yes, but like Virgil is part of the story. Virgil's the most important character in the story.
Yeah, but when you like Virgil is, yeah, but V is literally just like a like he's just hiding who he is, and his gameplay sections are so short, they're so different from anything else that I just don't really count them as part of what Devil May Cry 5 is. There's always the bit on a replay I'm like, ugh, this, I'll just pretend it doesn't exist. I
Interesting.
feel like I've lost you both. I feel like I'm
Interesting.
getting no love here.
You
I
won't.
mean,
That's okay.
I like the V levels. I
I do
like the
not.
summons. It is very different, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, then my answer is Devil May Cry 4, I guess, if I'm going
I
there.
just don't know
I
why you
do
picked a game that has 3 characters.
because I don't
Incredible
count
stuff.
V. I
Incredible
do have
stuff.
another choice if we want to redeem myself a little bit. If we want to hear it.
Do you have more to say about Devil May Cry 5?
I don't. I've lost my energy. You guys have beat me down. I don't want to talk about
Oh
Devil May
my
Cry 5
god.
ever again.
You've abused you and
Wow.
given up.
My other choice, and this one is, I mean, if you argue me on this, I'll be surprised, but Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
pretty obvious choice. You could say Venom, and that's what popped into my head just as I started saying this, but
that's yeah. I hadn't thought of Venom. That's actually true. That's wrong as well.
I don't think Venom counts either. I don't think that counts. He's playable for one segment. I don't think he's definitely not a protagonist.
I would say that's much different from V, but yes, Venom is not a protagonist of the game. He is a playable character, but he is not a dual protagonist of Spider-Man.
Okay, then I guess my answer is Spider-Man 2, which
For sure.
we were going to talk about it at some point, right? Like it's probably the most recent
it was my
example of.
answer. So cool.
Oh no! Well, Eric, you take it away and you tell us why we're both thinking the same thing.
This episode is a car crash. I'm looking forward
This
to
is
writing
an
the ship with my
absolute
pick.
disaster. Yeah, Stacy will have to save us. Well, I guess we'll jump to me then.
Eric, what's your favorite game with dual protagonists?
It's Spider-Man 2. Listen,
Venom's a playable character, and that doesn't actually count.
This is what happens when we don't tell each other our picks beforehand. It's carnage.
No. We've done 38 episodes, and it's worked every time. This is what happens when we don't pick a game that matches the theme of the episode. Okay, listen. Spider-Man 2 is really good, and I thought it was okay the first time I played it, and then as time has passed, I appreciate it more and more. And in particular, the dual protagonist aspect, I think is really, really well done. Miles and Peter have 2 different stories going on. The plot of Spider-Man 2 is a lot about how they have their own lives and they're being pulled in different directions as heroes and as friends, as mentor mentee turned into, equals, right? Like that's sort of the core of Spider-Man 2's plot. And
Absolutely.
what I think is really compelling about the story, and what's really how it handles having the two perspectives so well, is that we get to see each of the two characters from the other one's perspective. And so like as Peter is going through his bad boy phase and starting to lose the audience, then you align with Miles and you see Peter through Miles' eyes. And at the start of the game, when Miles is going through his like school thing and his like
He needs to write an essay.
moving moving into adulthood and dealing with the responsibilities of
Yes.
that, we're
Sure.
experiencing that from Peter's point of view, who is the adult. So like you're always experiencing one of the characters struggle through the eyes of the other one. And I think it's so cool. I think it's just a really good storytelling mechanic. And on top of that, it feels great to play both of them. They feel different enough as
Mm.
individual Spider-Men. The pivots happen at like a really well-paced pace.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to say about Spider-Man. What did you have to say, George?
All of that, exactly what you said. Just probably more, like, there's probably a bit more eloquent. That's
Probably a
how I
little
would
more
have put it.
verbose, yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna say it better than that.
Yeah, I was probably going to say something wrong.
You probably wouldn't have said well-paced pace.
No, I probably would have.
I think another thing that you mentioned, like Peter being the representation of adulthood for Miles. The other really cool thing is Peter's arc in this is he basically becomes addicted to like the Venom power, right? Like it's obviously a pretty easy allegory for drug addiction, but it's not actually drug addiction. It's more the power and the letting down his great responsibility and just taking the great power.
Yes.
And in
It's
Miles's
escape.
yes, in Miles's arc, we see that again mirrored because Miles's big thing is Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative, obviously, he has history with Mr. Negative from his father, and when he fights Mr. Negative, he kind of goes deeper and deeper into his own psyche through the various powers, and that's how he kind of realizes that he doesn't need to be this way. It's a pretty important learning moment for Miles. Miles is not just getting better at being Spider-Man because he's better at swinging or his aim is more accurate or he's faster when he's fighting. He's learning the idea of being Spidey. In his own like spin-off game, he's 1.5. You get a sense of Miles placing himself in the community. That's really what Miles Morales is about. It's about being our Spider-Man, as they say at the end of the game. But I still don't think he has approached how do I tackle the challenges of being Spider-Man, the sacrifices you have to make, the selflessness that is required to do that. In Miles Morales, he's just pretty straightforwardly a hero. Yes, there's the kind of thing with it's his Uncle Aaron, but he's fighting a capitalist bad guy who has a big capitalist bad guy tower. Like, do you know what I mean? There's personal stuff because obviously he is friends with Finn and his Uncle Aaron is his Uncle Aaron. Obviously, Prowler is his Uncle Aaron. But most of his actual like main narrative is just about you are the hero, here is a bad guy, go stop them. And I think he has to wrestle with that a bit more in Spider-Man 2, which is interesting. And kind of, we see that with Peter in the first game because he's poor and he keeps it from even his Aunt May, who he didn't need to keep it from because we know that from the end of the game. So
and he has to sacrifice his aunt.
Yeah,
right?
he chooses literally to save the town or save, is the only person who's ever really connected with him parentally.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think Spider-Man 2 is the game where Miles actually becomes the hero because he finds out what you actually have to go through to be the hero, like the sacrifices you have to make. And I think it's really cool that Peter is teaching him to be Spider-Man, and ultimately it is Peter that teaches him, but not in the way he had planned or expected, right? Like,
Yeah. I think
be
even
yourself, be greater.
Even moving beyond like thematically, I think a lot of worries with games that have dual protagonists is one character going to be, you know, preferred gameplay wise? They're going to have like a better move set. And I remember going into Spider-Man 2, I was like, oh my god, like that's going to be the case. If Peter's got the symbiote, then Miles is just going to be way less fun to play
Why would
as.
you
But
not
they
play
really
as the
balanced
Venom
it.
guy? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And they balanced it so well because Miles, I think Miles was already, when you played Miles Morales, I think he came out as like, oh, okay, he's way more fun to play as Peter. He's faster, he's got more tricks. But they balanced it well in Spider-Man 2. I think they end up like on equal footing.
Yeah. Good pick, George.
Yeah, I changed my pick to that. Everything we said counts as my one. Eric, on the fly, think of something else. Go.
Whatever.
Eric will have a
game.
lot on the fly because he does the he does the quiz, so Eric will have a bunch lined up.
I do. I do have more to talk about. I'd rather not spoil them yet. Stacey, what is your favorite game with dual protagonists?
Well, you said at the start about having so many to choose from. I had one of those weeks where it was a pretty easy choice because the game that I've chosen is not one that I'm going to get to discuss unless very specific parameters come up. It doesn't fall into the kind of easy category of most weeks. I want to say Red Dead 2, which I could have mentioned, because John and Arthur. But I have gone for Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yeah.
One of the, I think, the most underrated of the Assassin's Creed games. Not my favorite. My favorite is Black Flag, which technically has two protagonists, but not really. Syndicate is the Victorian Assassin's Creed. You play as Jacob and Evie Fry, two twins who are making their way through Victorian London. And I really like both characters because I do feel like there is a little bit of push and pull to how their gameplay works. Two, they each have independent sorts of stories, which you don't always see, especially in Assassin's Creed. You know, there was two Eivors, but it was just kind of like you can change whichever gender you'd rather play as, but then it's not actually a narrative conceit. So
that's Valhalla.
Yes, for Valhalla. Yeah, in the mythology of Valhalla, it was like, oh, well, the female one is canon, but also the male one's kind of canon at this point. And it's like, we're going to put the male guy on all of the action figures in the box art because that's what we think sells games. But we're going to say the female character is the canon one because we think that sells games as well. It was just a lot of that sort of thing, I think, with this. Whereas with Syndicate, it felt more like they were like, well, we want to have a playable female character. Let's have them be twins, and then there's still that kind of option. You still get to have the more classic Assassin's Creed experience, what you get with Jacob. And Evie still does the parkour and the fighting and things, but she also has some things that are very specific to her. Like the underground boxing is just Jacob's, for example. So they have their own activities that they can fade into. And because Victorian society is a lot more modern in terms of some of the cultures that Assassin's Creed explores, it's really interesting to see how they explore them in very kind of gendered ways. Because I think with the ancient Greeks, it's just kind of, oh, there's a female warrior, she's like Xena, get over it. Whereas I think with the modern ones, because there is a lot more to explore with those sorts of dynamics, it makes for a really interesting presentation. And I really like Syndicate. I think Syndicate's, like I say, a really underrated game. It gets the choke of the city done really well in a way that I don't think the series captured really even beyond the first one. I know everyone, including myself, would say the second is a far superior game than the first, but Damascus was a really claustrophobic setting, and I don't think 2 ever quite got that, because the idea back then, as really with now, is the bigger the game is, the better the game is. And I think Syndicate did a really good job of, it still has a big map, and there's still some open areas outside the city, but when you're in Victorian London, you have to feel like you're surrounded by brickwork and factories, and everything around you is kind of twisting and turning towards the river, towards the sewers, towards the alleyways. It feels really tightly designed, and I think that's why it's divisive, because a lot of people don't want clutter.
Yeah.
But for people who I think like that more classic Assassin's Creed experience, I wouldn't really have any of the modern ones, I don't think, in my top 5. That's why I love what Syndicate brings to the table. Also, the first Assassin's Creed game to have a canon queer protagonist, because Jacob is bisexual.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that. Syndicate. I'm wrong about this, and I know it, and I'm going to be told I'm wrong. I never really got on with it that much. I think maybe this was just my sort of fatigue of Assassin's Creed at that point. Like Unity was my last one that I really got into before Shadows, but
I thought you
I
were going
know
to say the Unity
this is
kind of
why I
burns
know
you
I'm
out.
wrong. It's not good.
That I think is more of the con, because that, you're wrong when you say this game with 3 protagonists says 2 protagonists, but you're not wrong when you say you don't like Syndicate. I like it a lot, but I do understand people that don't like it, because I do think in a way it's dated. It's really more than Mirage, even. It's the classic Assassin's Creed. It's the game that is looking at what the first game does and saying, let's redo that. It's still a bigger scale, and there's still some of the mythology stuff that comes a bit more to the fore in 2 and 3, but it feels a bit more classic, and that's not going to be for everyone. But liking that, not liking that because you like Unity, I do find strange.
I think it's because Unity, not to go too far off, but Unity had like the parkour in that. They still have not matched that. And as someone who like played Assassin's Creed mostly for that growing up, I don't know. To me, that's just like the peak. And then Syndicate.
I've just looked up to check if I was right. Unity's Arno in the French one.
Yeah,
I wondered if I was right.
The one that everyone hates.
That I'm staggered by. I just wanted to check that I wasn't like talking out a turn, and I got the games mixed up.
No, I just have bad taste apparently.
Terrible taste.
Did you find that Shadow kind of builds on Syndicate at all with its dual protagonists?
I think it's kind of going back to the drawing board. I don't really see a similarity with them, because with Shadow, obviously, they have more markedly different gameplay styles. Like, I know I said Jacob would even get to do things, but I think with Naoe and Yasuke, you really are getting to do things differently. And obviously, actual missions pop up, and it'll say, do you want to play as Naoe, do you want to play as Yasuke? And that moves things on. There's more space, I think, given to the character writing in Shadow. As a result of that, I think it comes across as weaker, because I don't think the character writing is that great. And I think it's kind of, they've made a big deal of, we have 2 characters, we're going to focus on their story. They're going to be real characters as opposed to this kind of avatar of violence that I think some of the Assassin's Creed characters can kind of be. They don't really have any story beyond, I want to do this very big objective that will take me all the way through to the end of the game. We do get a bit more depth with Naoe and Yasuke, but I would be surprised if they had looked at Syndicate and tried to build off that, because I think Syndicate was really the first, well, not really, it was the first time Assassin's Creed had done this, and I think it's more likely they've looked at probably games like Devil May Cry, other sorts of action games that have given you 2 characters with different play styles within the same play space, and gone, how can they both manipulate this in a way that feels interesting to the player?
I agree. I think it's like such a step beyond what Syndicate was doing.
It's a step beyond that. I think I don't think it gets all the way there is the thing, I guess, that I would say.
No, I agree, yeah.
And I don't think Syndicate's a perfect game, but I like it, basically. Why I picked it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Shall we jump into a quiz then?
We absolutely should.
Okie dokie. This week's quiz, you know it, you love it. It's the Metacritic game with a twist.
Ooh. I like a twist.
In honor of dual protagonists, we will be looking at 2 reviews. The best review for the game and the worst review for the game.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Ooh, yeah,
So,
I do like that.
I'll be giving you 2 quotes and 2 scores, as well as the year, and it's your job to guess the game. We have 8 games today. I don't know why I settled on 8 recently, but that's what it is. I think this week we'll go back and forth, and I'll give you 2 points for the guess and 1 point for the steal.
Ooh,
Okay.
interesting.
if the guess is wrong. All right.
Let's steal some George and then yeah, feature rank.
Yeah, George, I'll let you go first, buddy. Would you like
Fantastic.
a game from 2021 or a game from 2017?
Oh, 2017. Why not? Let's go.
2017. Okay. Here's a review from NZ Gamer. It's a 90%. They said whatever small missteps this game does take are drowned out in the fiery explosions of its set pieces. They're forgotten amidst the humor and humanity of its cast and the witty banter they share. Here's another review from Game Critics. It's a 65. They said the larger issue is that heavy, uncomfortable shooting mechanics have no place in this series. It's fine in gritty, downtrodden survival tales like The Last of Us, but this is a series in which inhumanly characters are constantly falling from perilous heights and surviving without a hair out of place. This is a power fantasy. Let it be a power fantasy.
Oh my god, that's so broad. I genuinely don't know. 2017.
I said a lot of words.
Yeah.
Give me that. I did say a lot of words.
My first thought was, this isn't my answer, but it was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I don't even think was then. I'm trying to think of the best of 2017.
I think there's a lot of details.
Score, right?
90 was the first score. Yeah. I mentioned set pieces. I mentioned a series. I mentioned shooting. Now I know those are all broad ideas, but I mean those are details.
I have
Nier Automata was 2017, right?
I don't know when.
I'm pretty sure. Well, that means it's not. But I'm pretty sure it was 2017.
Yeah. Okay. Go on then, Stace. You can steal.
I don't know. I don't know how I got the right year. I've just got a guess-shaped thing. Since you don't have one, I'm going to go for a game that I think might be a little bit later than 2017, but kind of fits the categories, and I think would get these kind of mixed reviews. And say Borderlands 3.
No, which I think has like 4 protagonists, or like at least 4.
Oh, I missed. All of the games are also dual protagonists.
Oh yes, these games have dual protagonists.
Oh, that's that. This is a clever layered quiz. Okay,
I actually did miss that as well. Now I think about it.
Yes. All these games have dual protagonists.
I see. I see.
Would you like another guess? You were talking about Nier, so I thought we were on the same page.
Yeah, that was just my guess. That just came out of nowhere. Okay. I didn't consider that. God, I literally can't think of anything else that's.
I don't know the year again. I'm going to guess. I think it might be too early.
Go on.
Is it Yakuza?
No. This game, I'm going to tell you, is Uncharted Lost Legacy.
That makes perfect sense. That fits.
Yeah, 2017.
Yeah, does it though? Because I think that 65 score review makes no sense to me at all. The heavy, uncomfortable shooting mechanics? What? This is a power fantasy. Let it be a power fantasy? Huh? What?
Yeah.
What are they talking about?
I don't really get that. I guess if you view Uncharted as just like an action movie game,
yeah, but it has the same shooting mechanics as any of the other games. I don't get that. Same as any other Uncharted. All right, no points there, but that's okay. It's Stacy's turn. Stacy, would you like a game from 2021 or a game from 2018?
Let's go with 2021. Great. I'm going to say recency bias. That's 4 years ago, so maybe not.
2021. PC Mag gave it a 100 out of 100.
Ooh.
They said thrilling combat, expansive levels, and memorable characters make this an essential purchase. Perfect score, perfect review.
The perfect score is more of a clue than that, I think.
Quarter to 3 gave this a 20%.
Ooh.
Jesus.
Can you believe it? Quarter to 3 said, it's just a flurry of sloppy colors and shapes, a whirlwind of ineffectual nostalgia, absent of any innovation, creativity, confidence, or finesse.
Ooh, that's
oh my God.
Harsh. So
dual protagonist 2021.
Yeah, there were, to my mind, because I had both of them on my list. There were 2 dual protagonist games in 2021. And I think one of them fits this brief more than the other.
Yeah.
So
I think
I'm
we're on the same page.
going to go for, I believe, I hope I haven't misremembered the year. I believe this is It Takes Two. Is that correct?
It is not. I apologize.
Oh, I have a guess.
Yes, George.
Is it Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart?
That was
It
the other
is
one
Ratchet
I
and
had.
Clank Rift
Oh my
Apart,
god, that's so
yeah.
irritating.
Yes.
It was the nostalgia bit, I thought, because there's the Diablo level, there's the Tony Hawk level, there's...
Yeah. But Ratchet and Clank has all the Ratchet and Clank levels.
Why are it's PC Mag? Why are they...
that was the
Yeah,
only thing making me think I was
irritated by
that
this.
was a bit of... Yeah.
They were the 2 on my list as well.
How about this 20 out of 100 for Rift Apart? That's absurd.
That is wild.
Oh, yeah.
That's obscene.
A flurry of sloppy colors and shapes. All right, George is up a
9?
point. I think you did, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that game. I actually think it's got maybe the best story of any Ratchet. Maybe that's pretty not controversial.
I think a cracking time, but I don't think you're far off the mark.
The thing is with Ratchet and Clank stories, like some of them have a lot of humor in, like you get away with and not have much of a story. This is not the funniest Ratchet and Clank I've ever played, which I think would lose at points in terms of how much I care about the story. But it does with Kit, I think, has the best story.
The Nefarious and Cooler Nefarious is funny. There's a lot of funny stuff in there.
Yeah.
All right. George, back to you. I'll give you a game from 2018 or 2008.
Ooh.
God. Let's go 2008. Why not?
2008.
Yeah, I'll risk it.
Game Informer gave this a 90.
Okay.
New features and options I didn't even know I wanted. They form a tight, precise combat system that action aficionados will adore, but newcomers can still utilize. Meanwhile, the AV Club gave this a 58. They said, there's the issue of style. It feels like the creators are trapped in the summer of 1999 when The Matrix was still the pinnacle of otaku-informed art.
Oh, God, that's a big hint there, isn't it?
2008.
Otaku-informed art.
I know. What is similar to The Matrix in 2008? I mean, I know it's not literally that, but what gives those vibes with a dual protagonist?
What makes you think that the creators are trapped in 1999 in The Matrix? It's an issue of style, they said. But Game Informer thinks it's tight and precise.
What did Game Informer give it? What was its highest score?
A 90.
A 90.
Okay, so it is getting a big range. Not like it's...
I will say, I didn't necessarily pick the highest score if the review had...
Okay, that's fine, but...
Trash. If there was nothing to pull from the review.
Fair.
Literally can't think of a single game that fits that bill. I can't think of anything from 2008 that jumps out as having dual protagonists. That's my struggle now.
I'm struggling to remember one game. I can't remember if it has 2 protagonists. And I don't really think it fits the brief, but it is probably the game that I'm going to guess if it comes to me and then be told that's not the one with 2 protagonists. Now I'm increasingly convinced that it doesn't have 2 protagonists, actually, you know.
The only game I can think of that's 2008, I wouldn't say it definitely doesn't have 2 protagonists. Which is Metal Gear Solid 4.
That's not what I was going to guess. Is it Metal Gear Solid 4?
Not Metal Gear Solid 4, and Metal Gear Solid 4 has 1 protagonist.
I know, that's why I said. I know I've been shaky on the rules in this episode, but I do know that.
Gears 2 is 2008, but I don't think it has 2 protagonists. There's other Gears games do, but I don't think 2 does. I don't really think it... The first half, the positive review fits. I don't think the negative review fits at all. What else came out in 2008?
No, I really should have just gone 2018. I've lost my abilities.
I mean, sometimes I do like the older. This kind of middle ground, I think, where you tend to get a lot more. I tend to know the older stuff and the current stuff. I'm going to guess Gears 2 and then I'm not wrong, because then I'll be extremely annoyed if it turns out to
The game is Devil May Cry 4.
Oh my god.
Are you kidding? Oh my god.
I don't know. You guys do the homework.
I'd like to announce that this is my last episode. I think I resign.
It's a rough one. Hey, listen, George is out of town. All right. He's not in his own environment. He's had to drag his PlayStation across the country to play Death Stranding 2, and he doesn't know what's going on.
Don't make
So far-
excuses for me. I
and
will
so
win.
far, he's in the lead.
I'm gonna say Laura's in the lead.
Stacey, we have a game
Yeah.
from 2018, and we have a game from 2015.
Let's do the 18, please.
Sure. 2018. PlayStation Lifestyle gave this a 100. Perfect
Oof.
score. They said a true achievement in game design. Not only does it manage to take players on a journey of emotion, it does so in a way that's only possible through the medium of games. But on the flip side, game critics, these
I know what this is.
rascals, gave it a 40. 40% game critics says the gameplay is simple to the point of being bland. The script is too predictable, and its efforts to evoke emotion feel cheap. Huh. Is it a true journey of emotion? Or do its efforts to evoke emotion feel cheap?
You said you think you know it.
I have a guess based on the year and the big score.
I'm not great with the years is the only problem. Looking at what I've got written down, I don't think any of the ones that I was actually going to talk about are.
Well, this is a true achievement in game design. Obviously, you know what this one is. It takes us on a journey, Stacey. It's really only possible through the medium of video games.
2018. Does it count as two protagonists? Does this count? I'm going to say I think it counts. Is it God of War?
Is it God of War? No, it's not God of War. Do you even play Atreus in the first one?
Well, you vaguely control.
But you command
you control him. That's why
And narratively, you would say.
Can I steal?
Of course.
Yes, George, you may steal.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is 2018, right?
Nope.
What?
You were so confident. You were so confident.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Red Dead was 2018. Yeah, it was beaten to
I'm at least getting my years right.
Any other guesses?
It's not Yakuza. I'm going to keep saying Yakuza. I'll be annoyed when I'm right. I don't think that was that late. The Yakuza 0.
What if I told you it's A Way Out?
Oh,
100 for A Way Out. Oh. No, I love It Takes Two, but I do not love A Way Out.
I couldn't choose the correct. I mean, they're two different reviews. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What a flub on our part.
Yeah, not every quiz is going to be a banger, but what are you going to do? Here we go.
I love it. We're just not doing well.
Quiz. We're just not good at it.
Back to you, George. 2015 or 2017?
I think I've learned from last time. 2017, please.
Sure. 2017. Digitally downloaded. This is one of your favorite outlets. Digitally downloaded. Gave it a hundo, the perfect score. They said, for all its humor, its intelligent noirish thriller narrative, and the sheer amount of stuff to do, its real strength forever remains in the little details it gets right about its representation. Pretty meaty quote there. Although, maybe this will be more helpful, because EGM gives it a 50. A mildly interesting setting and story don't quite make up for the game's more tedious elements.
Is this the 2018 one? Sorry.
This is 2017.
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck at me.
Yep.
2017 was literally where I struggled with last time. Why did I do this to myself?
You did struggle with 2017.
I think that there's a line in the positive review which gives me a guess. I'm trying to think, are there two protagonists? I think there are. I think you do play as the other one at some point. I think I'm going to go for it.
I mean, I'm going to guess Nier Automata again because it was that year.
Sheer amount of stuff to do. What's your guess?
Yeah, Nier Automata.
Incorrect.
Okay.
The sheer amount of stuff. Now that you've repeated it, I'm like, I'm not quite sure. Was the positive review? Did it say representation?
They did, yeah. Its real strength forever remains in the little details it gets right about its representation. Yeah, they also said for all its humor, its intelligent noirish thriller narrative.
Oh no.
But on the other hand, it might be a little tedious.
Noirish that doesn't surprise me. Like I think those two reviews mesh together quite well. Actually, it's a noir game that's very progressive and it's sometimes
a mildly
a bit boring.
Interesting setting.
Oh, I was thinking Life is Strange 2 because I think you might get to play as both of the Diaz at some point, but I don't. The noir and the load of stuff I don't think fits that. I don't think I have one. I think I'm
going to kick myself.
Two
but I don't know.
protagonists. I should have done really more thorough research. Sometimes I look up a lot of them and I come in on and I just go, yeah, I'm doing this game. I don't need to look them up, and that's kind of what I did this time.
We all know what I did this time, so I'm not.
Picked the wrong sort of game. Yeah, is this Devil May Cry 5? Is it Bayonetta 2?
It is not. The game is Yakuza 0. I know you both hate.
So
yourself.
Irritating.
You both hate yourself so much. This is the quiz where everybody.
That
hates
was noirish. That is so.
That's what put me off. Yeah, I've guessed it every time and it hasn't really. I should have guessed this time.
Oh God.
I did not write any of these reviews. Okay,
it's
Stacey's turn, right?
Yeah, my turn.
Here we go. 2015 or 2020?
Let's do 2020.
2020. Here's a perfect score from COG Connected. COG Connected. Perfect score, an astounding technical marvel. It deftly weaves diverse exploration and fun combat into a mix, resulting in a truly brilliant package. Now that's one take. But let's hear what our old buddies at Game Critics have to say. They gave this a 70. They said this game is held back by a lack of mechanical evolution and uninspired gameplay. A journey worth tolerating for the sake of what it gets right, but when it comes down to it, I feel exactly the same way I did about the first one. I wish this was a book.
Yeah. This is The Last of Us Part 2.
This is The Last of Us Part 2.
Unfair. I knew that one too.
From half court.
Says with 2 points.
When it was a dual place from 2020, I'm probably going to guess The Last of Us for this. And then the lowest score was a 70. I was like, yeah.
That was, I think, the easiest one.
Yes,
Shall
probably.
we go to George?
Yeah.
Well,
do I have to do 2015 now?
We got 2 games from 2015. So I'm gonna throw an. I'm gonna give you the one no one has picked yet.
Okay.
And we'll save the other one for last. Here we go. 2015. PlayStation Lifestyle says this is a 95 out of 100.
Ooh.
They say the name of the studio. So studio has pulled through with just enough nostalgia and modern aesthetic, offering up a fresh and funny classic in an age where blockbuster games rule the roost. Should give you a bit of a lead there.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, Play UK gave this just a 50. Just a stanky 50, they call it. They said, beneath the lavish art style and high-quality production, this game ends up feeling rather empty and desolate. Empty and desolate, both. Empty,
lavish
and another word for
art
empty.
Style.
Yeah, it's got a lavish art style and high-quality production. But it's also just enough nostalgia and a modern aesthetic.
It's always one bit that throws me up.
Yeah. It's fresh and it's funny.
It's nostalgia that's doing me.
I've got a guess.
I think I hate this quiz. Go on then, Steve.
Nostalgia is a good clue here. But you got a guess or where you at? What you thinking?
Go on. I want Steve to guess. I'll take the L.
2015, yeah?
2015.
By virtue of not wanting to pull a George, my game came out in 2015, so I'm going to guess is Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
It's not. I would like to remind you that this offers a fresh and funny classic in an age where blockbuster games rule the roost. So as to suggest, it is not a blockbuster game.
Yes.
I'll give you all another guess.
A non-blockbuster game from 2015. Why don't you, since you took the studio out, why don't you throw a bone? What was the studio?
Sure. Double Fine has pulled through with just enough nostalgia and modern aesthetic, offering up a fresh and funny classic.
Oh, it's
in an
Broken Age.
It is Broken Age, yeah.
Yeah. Do I even get a point for that? Because that's... Yeah, I wouldn't even. I didn't know Broken Age released then. I thought that was like way
let's
earlier.
do this. That if I give you a point, that ties it up, and the last round goes to Stacy. So let's see what happens. All right,
Okay, I like
Stacy,
that.
this is a 2015 game.
Yes.
PSX Extreme gave it a 91. They said it's a fantastic game. Let me repeat, it's a fantastic game. The lingering control issues and some minor pacing issues as a result of the two protagonist approach can't taint this gargantuan project. Meanwhile, The Guardian gave it a 40, a sloppy 40, they call it.
Do they?
They said the series finally begins to carve out an identity for itself and really let fly with its characteral depiction of humanity. It's simultaneously failing to keep up with even middling mechanics, technical, and design standards.
I think Stacey's going to guess what it is straight away because
you always have this thing where you're overconfident, then it comes to you and you're wrong anyway. So I'm not going to be psyched out. I'm just not going to pull a George. I am going to say this 2015 is Assassin's Creed Syndicate because I do think those fit.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate is
There
correct.
I was breaking you up. I said you'd get it. That's what I was doing.
With the win. I was so prepared for you not to pick Assassin's Creed Syndicate and officially make this the worst episode of the podcast ever. But you pulled through. You saved the show, just like always.
Oh.
Stacey Henley with the W. A couple more to mention. That's it for the quiz. But I gotta talk about Alan Wake 2.
Yes, I was surprised that wasn't on
that
that
Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
I've picked Alan Wake 2 before for something.
That's true. I think it was actually Flashlights.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, because you did Doom for Flashlights. Some was George had Alan Wake. We have definitely done Alan Wake though before.
Yeah,
we talked about it a lot. Yeah,
definitely done Alan Wake 2. A very cool way to do dual protagonists because they are in different worlds looking for each other and communicating with each other, which is cool. But also, there's from the very beginning, their two stories don't align. And I don't know if I should spoil it because this is still a pretty new game. But this happens right at the beginning of the game. Right at the beginning of the game, Alan Wake appears in the real world. And then for the rest of the game, you play as Alan Wake in not the real world. And that is a very confusing way to start the game. Because how is he in two places at the same time? And I think the way that it approaches that in this sort of, this is just what's happening, there's nothing weird about it kind of way. And then the way that it reveals what's going on, I think is just super cool. And I like the way that their relationship evolves despite only being able to hear like weird echoes of each other. Like they have such a strong connection despite not knowing each other and never meeting, but like they share this like paranormal thing and they're desperately trying to reach each other. And I just think it's a cool dynamic between these two characters.
Yeah, I think the way that the communication works in Alan Wake 2 is just very... It's an extension of how Alan Wake 2 itself works, in that it's something that you have to kind of buy into, and then as you do that and get further through it, you have to kind of buy into it less. I think with a lot of games, they give you this kind of, yeah, here's how this works, don't ask too many questions, and as the game goes on, you kind of are stuck with it. Whereas I think with Alan Wake, the more you play with it, the more it communicates to you why it's happening, and those quirks they're not a mechanical thing that the developer has done to make their life easier, and because, hey, you want to play this video game, this is how we're going to make it, tough. Yeah. It's done in a way that it's actually built into the narrative that the gameplay functions in a specific way.
George agrees. I also wanted to mention Resident Evil 2, which could have been big as well. What Resident Evil 2 does is so cool because there's basically two different stories depending on which character's story you play first. So, like, you play through the game and then you play the second character and they're tailing the first character. So you see the things you did, the ways that you changed the world appear in that second campaign. But then when you replay the game, if you play the other character first, the story changes to match that version. And I think it's such a cool way to, one, do replayability, and two, to connect the characters together. And it's interesting that like that game came out in like 96 or whatever, right? And like that,
Yeah.
no one's ever really done that exact thing again. And maybe that's because Resident Evil 2 did it so well and so iconic that, you know, you don't want to copy this thing everyone knows, but also maybe somebody should have. Like maybe
That's the
somebody
thing.
could
There's
have
so
pushed
many of
that
those
idea
things that
further.
do get copied.
Yeah. Some, like, you could have done something, you could have done it with 3 characters and have 9 different stories. Like, I feel like this hasn't really been a thing that ever got repeated, and it's such a cool idea for replayability.
The only game I can think of that does something kind of similar to that is in Crash Bandicoot 4. There are parts of the level where the actions of another character will randomly happen, and you can replay a level as that character, and you kind of push it into existence, I guess. You know, when you get like the triangle mark, you see like, oh, Cortex did this, but you don't know what
and then
happened
you
at
go
the time.
play
It's only when
that.
you, yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's more like a flash forward, flash back kind of thing. But yeah, all right. George can't take any more criticism this week. we've burned him too hard. George, your Kingdom Hearts game was surely Dream Drop, yes?
It was, yeah. I did briefly consider Kingdom Hearts 2 because Rock's a Sansora, but
That's what I was
that'd
going
be
to
a cheat.
ask.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't want to cheat this week.
No, well, okay. But anyway, Dream Drop Distance, it was on my list to talk about, but I don't think it does its dual protagonist thing well at all.
No,
because you have the yeah, it's really bad, so I couldn't pick it, even if it's Kingdom Hearts.
Chain of Memories does it way better.
Yeah, Chain of Memories is actually a good choice, but Dream Drop Distance, this is for everyone like Stacey who doesn't know what we're talking about. They have a meter in Dream Drop where it can run out, like even during a boss fight, it can run out, and then you swap characters automatically. Like you basically don't have a choice most of the time, and it just sucks. It's really bad.
It's 2 separate stories, and you have no control over when you swap between them.
Yeah.
It's
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah,
it's a hell, you know. It's very Kingdom Hearts, but yeah, I hate it as well.
Yeah. We mentioned A Way Out, but every Hazelight game, all the Hazelights,
I think that's
defines the genre, the 2 protagonist thing.
Yeah, I think they do it in a different way every time, to their credit. I think that would be fair to say. I'm not as big a fan of Split Fiction as most other people are, but I do appreciate that it's different. It's not just It Takes Two again. It's maybe a bit too close to It Takes Two for how different it wants to be. But even going back to Brothers, not quite the co-op nature of the later games, but it's still, that dual protagonist done in a more interesting way, because it's both the thumbsticks.
Yeah,
I always forget about Brothers. That's always one that slips my mind.
I think Brothers is a lot better than A Way Out.
Brothers, A Tale of Two Siblings.
A Tale of Two Sons.
Two sons. I thought, yeah.
I was going to say, George, and this ties to the next game I want to talk about. I don't think Kingdom Hearts 2 is a cheat, even though you only play Roxas for the first few hours. Like, they are both the protagonists of that game, like narrative.
Yeah, I think so. I just thought I'd really throw a wrench in the works.
and I will say the same of Metal Gear Solid 2, right? Even though you only play Snake at the beginning, and then
that's very true.
A little at the end, like Snake is present and is as much the hero that story is, right? And it's like that story doesn't exist without Snake.
Yeah.
We mentioned Yakuza 0, but we could have talked about several Yakuza games, right? Like,
oh my god, we could have talked about Infinite Wealth. Why didn't I do that?
I didn't pick it just because I wanted to talk about a new game, but Infinite Wealth is a huge one.
Yeah.
I love it, Infinite Wealth. My game of the year.
Yeah, I think that covers all of mine. Any other ones to touch on?
We haven't actually really discussed The Last of Us. I feel like we should, but we do. Right. We have discussed that a lot for various things. I think we did Death pretty recently. We discussed it there, but the way The Last of Us makes it a twist, and I know the attitude of us, because we're kind of in games, is like, it was spoiled. I knew it was going to happen. I knew Joel was going to die. I knew whatever. I think if you take a game like at face value, people are going to play this unexposed to the world,
Yeah.
It's a really big twist that they kill off the main guy in the first game. Pretty violent, like, incredibly violent. It's kind of become a bit of a meme now. It's an incredibly violent, bloody way to die. And we see a lot of it, and we see it through Ellie as well. You don't just see Joel being killed. We see the pain that it causes.
Yeah.
And then you play as his killer and sympathize with her to the point where I would even say she becomes the hero of the game. If you think of how it ends and all the stuff that happens with Ellie, I think that people are down on Naughty Dog, and I do think their kind of obsession with technical wizardry and the kind of nihilistic nature of the games, the fact that they kind of, you know, manifested themselves around the visions of Neil Druckmann. There's a lot you can say about The Last of Us and the way Naughty Dog makes its games specifically. But they, in the same way that the stuff that happens in Alan Wake 2, is combining gameplay in a way that I don't think many games are doing, combining gameplay with how the narrative is given to you. The actual writing and humanity within The Last of Us, I don't think many other games are capable of, because they sacrifice that for more engaging gameplay and player attention, and we need to have, you know, we need to have an activity at this point. I think The Last of Us really commits to its vision, and that's why it works.
Yeah.
Took better than I could have.
That story doesn't work if it's only from Ellie's point of view.
No,
that's the whole point of it. And your resistance to Abby is also the point of it. And I think this is one of those cases where they just knew like the dialogue between the writer and the audience. It is so strong. Like they knew exactly how people were going to feel and how they wanted to make people feel, and it worked.
Absolutely.
It was really
yeah, I think that awareness of how they want the game to be perceived, how they expect it to be perceived, is a really important point, actually.
Yeah. Well, through all my digging, I definitely came up with enough examples of trio protagonists. So I think down the line we'll do that. But George, you better
This was
do
just
it
a
right.
sneak preview.
You better do it right, dude. So
Guardians of the Galaxy is what I'm going to choose.
Eventually, I do want to talk about games that have 3 protagonists, because there were quite a few of those. And then, this was all just secret advertising for GTA 5.
Yeah.
The next best game with dual protagonists. So we'll see you in 2026. All right, that's it for this episode. Thanks so much. Oh my God. What a disaster. Hey, sorry about this episode, but thank you anyway for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week with another one, hopefully. And those are our favorite games with dual protagonists. Please.
Kind of.
Let us know your favorite games with dual protagonists. Get in touch, leave us a comment. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.